This video is going to discuss literal equations and how to solve for variables when there are multiple variables, like this equation here, where we have multiple variables C, A, and B, and how to isolate that individual variable. So for the first problem on here, I'm trying to solve for A, which means I need to get A on the side of the equation by itself. So what you're going to do first is you're going to think about what is also on the same side as A, which in this case would be a 4B and a minus 2. And we're going to get rid of all that other stuff. So we do have two terms. We have 4AB, that's our first term, and then we have a minus 2, which is our second term. Whenever you're solving these kind of two-step literal equations, you want to go ahead and zero out the term that's not connected to the variable. So this term's connected, 4AB, so we're going to actually zero this other term out first. So if we have minus 2, we can just add 2 to both sides. And so that would be C plus 2 equals 4AB. And then once we get to this step, we still have our variable A. And anything connected to A, we want to go ahead and turn it into a 1. So just like we would, multiply by the reciprocal, or in this case, we can go ahead and divide off. Anything, remember, divided by itself is 1. So if we divide 4B by 4B, we get 1. But of course, following the properties of equality, we have to go ahead and do the same thing on both sides. So then this would turn into a 1A, or just A, equals C plus 2 divided by 4B. Okay, so just making sure that we do, again, dividing both terms on the left side by the 4B as well. And then once we get to that, our A has been isolated, so we're finished, and that's now the equation is written in A equals. So looking at a second problem, this one's a little bit different, but we're going to solve for Y. And again, you kind of want to think about how to get things to turn to 1 or turn to 0. So just as if this were x plus 4 over 2, we would go ahead and turn this 2 to 1 first. So if we multiply by 2 on both sides, then we get 2 over 2, which just simplifies to 1. So now we just have x plus y over 1, or x plus y, equals 2c. And then from this point, we have now we have two separated terms, x and y. So we want to solve for that y, so we can zero out the term that's not connected to the y. So we're going to subtract x from both sides, and we get y equals 2c minus x. X minus x, of course, is 0, and now we're left with just the y. For the last one that is on here, we are going to solve for a variable that you see is in two separate terms. So we have it here as well as here. Now usually you look at this and you're like, wow, maybe I could try to put them together, but unfortunately, since these are not like terms, this has an A, this has a B, we can't combine those terms together. The way that we can isolate the the H, is by actually factoring out the H. The problem if we try to solve for H just by adding the H to both sides and then getting rid of the A in the 1/2 is that we would have another H with it. So if you have a problem like this where we have two the same variable in two different terms that are not like terms, you have to factor that term out. So the next thing it would look like, it's kind of like working distributive property backwards. You would write H on the outside of the parentheses, and then almost like distributive property we multiply, we're kind of dividing it out. So if we do 1/2 AH divided by H, we're just left with the 1/2 A, and then minus BH divided by H would just be a minus B. Now, we only have one H in our problem. Actually, it's pretty simple from here, because we can actually turn this whole thing into 1 by dividing it off. So since this is h times everything in the parentheses, we can just divide by 1/2 a minus b on both sides, which would look like this is a little bit messy to work with. I guess you could multiply the numerator and denominator by 2/1. So you can multiply this by 2 and this by 2. But that would, this is okay for your final for now. Usually we don't like a complex fraction. So we did go ahead and get rid of the 2/1. We could actually multiply both the numerator and denominator by 2. So it'd be 2/2, which is just 1. So this would simplify to 2a equals, and then you just have to make sure you put it with both terms. So that would be 2 times 1/2, which is just a, and then 2 times that would be minus 2b. But for now, that's okay. Usually, this situation is a little bit different, but this would be a more simplified answer and more mathematically sound. But like I said, either one of those. The important thing about this one is trying to remember how to pull that each out when it's in those two separated terms.